I need like more inspiration.
Welcome to tonight's meeting. This is our pre-meeting for November 14th, 2022, and start off by counselor reports. Anybody? Yep.
I had inclusivity board this last week, and they had a discussion around shrinking their board through attrition down to 9. And that sounds like what the group wanted. So I think I heard that'll be on an upcoming agenda for us to ratify that, because that increase was done by ordinance. So, and I think right now they're allowed to have 13. They're short 2, so they're at 11, I think. And there's potential that somebody else might leave, because Bev Bishop is leaving, Juliet Abdel left. Those are the ones for sure that resigned. But the group talked a lot about, just the challenges that come along with the group being as big as that. So that was one of their things. They talked a little bit about doing potentially a task force on homelessness. Alan is on that board. So what I really encouraged was for them to, because they had Kate their meeting before, and so I shared that there's a lot of things already going on, and so if there was room for them to do it, that I really wanted or would encourage, and hopefully we would all agree that it would make sense for them to talk with someone who deals with that and figure out if there's opportunity for them to help. They did have some good ideas around. One of the things that Alan was asking for was how they're talking to people who potentially were formerly homeless versus are homeless, to make sure that they have a voice in kind of our process and we're hearing from them. I thought that made sense, but kind of my message to them is let's not double efforts. And then I reiterated that I've shared with you guys that I would like to see us work with them to have some direction for their group, so that they're not working on stuff and then coming back and it not matching up with what we would like them to work on. Because I can imagine that would be frustrating if they put a ton of work into something and then it's not what we want. So
I did have the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Community Roundtable today, and I spoke with Commissioner Tharp, and she wanted to make clear that even though she's one of the Jefferson County Commissioners that are fully responsible for how the airport runs with all the limitations the FAA and put on it. On this community noise roundtable, she wanted to emphasize that she's one of equals, and that there is no boss of that group. That group is doing everything possible to find the solutions to the noise problems that are faced out there. And then on a different topic, a couple speakers, citizen speakers, spoke at the roundtable. And you could see the hurt that one of them had to deal with. And then one of our own citizens, Miss Willie, very long-term, smart, responsible, dedicated person, is also really participating. She is a valuable resource, and she is also fully aware that there may be no solution everyone can join in. Maybe some people will have to go different ways.
Anyone else? I had 2 meetings with different sets of mayors. One was the US 36 group. They are planning a fly-in for DC in February. So I need to hear from you all. It doesn't have to be tonight. I don't know the date yet. It's one of the 3. It'd be Wednesday we fly. I know the schedule is crazy. On Thursday, we work all day Friday and catch that Frontier flight out on Friday. So it's in and out literally. But it's just before the raise grant again gets posted. 119 did not get accepted, or the 287 or the 42. So anyway, they're just thinking and face to face with Congress people to one more time say why it's so important. So that, and then with the Jeffco mayors, I had lunch on Friday, and Mark has lunch with the managers on Monday. And all I know is Mayor Williams shared that we may have some problems with the site where the building was supposed to go for our homeless folks and the wraparound stuff we were working towards. So we await new message. If nothing else, time for questions to get ready for tonight.
Just
Oh,
to
sorry.
clarify for everyone, that's the $1 million of ARPA funds that we have committed to go towards that homeless project. Okay.
It's in litigation and I don't know about what. And so they're just concerned. They know with it being ARPA money, it has to be spent in a certain way in a certain time.
Our million's protected because it's shifted money.
Right, unless we don't have a backup plan. I mean, if we're gonna hold it for so long, and then we'd need a backup plan for that.
It's not ARPA money though,
Oh, we're not, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
because we used ARPA
Right.
money to backfill the budget
Mhm.
deficit. So then we
Yeah,
allocated.
good point.
That's correct. Yeah. So, but I imagine some of the other cities may be in a time
Right.
crunch.
They need themselves a Larry Door, I guess.
That's right.
Okay, so any questions for tonight's agendas?
Did we want to keep all of the WIDA stuff to the WIDA meeting?
You can ask it now. I would.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for the breakdown. It's specifically what I asked for, so I truly appreciate that. But as I added up, I just got more questions. So like the first question is, doesn't the net property tax increment end in 2038?
Yes, 2038 is when the URA sunsets.
So all the numbers after that, we can delete.
From the net URA, yes.
Okay. Then I also didn't understand what, mobility was.
The mobility piece of it. Just 1 second, Council.
It's called expenses. And it's only in certain years and it's really not that much money. I mean, what's $8 million between friends, right?
I would speculate, sorry, we can get back to it with more detail, but the mobility, I believe, if you think about the Sheridan Underpass and some of the other on-street work that we're doing for downtown, I would guess that that's what that expenditure is.
Well,
Mobility related.
Well, it had some of the money spent in 20 and 21 and some scheduled for 24.
So we are planning right now for a capital project on 92nd between Eden and Harlan Street, which would likely be part of those funds.
Okay. And then what was city participation? Most of it was very early in the process, but it added up to a significant amount of money, like more than $7 million.
And I'm kind of looking to my former colleague here, Councilor Novella, as you would call a lot of this as well, but the city participation is a lot of our consulting contracts from Martin, obviously Laramie Company tonight, and others that have really developed, Tortigalis with the downtown city.
Okay. And what were the loans? Were those loans we made to people who bought property there?
One specifically was for the Eaton Street Affordable Housing Project. There were loans to, in essence, subsidize that affordable housing component of that project.
Okay. And then, who pays the cops back? Because all we have is interest here. So are the cops repayment taken out of the, someplace else?
Yeah, so the COP, certificates of participation, bulk debt service, so the 40 million that went towards parks, the parking garage, infrastructure, the interest only is that debt service payment for the duration of that loan. Okay.
Yeah, but where does the money to pay the cops back come from?
It was all part of the general fund, and I'm going to look towards Larry Dorr and your divisions. They helped us kind of put together some of that background.
Yeah,
So general fund dollars,
there you go.
transfers from other, that adjacent URA, I think, as well.
Right, yeah.
So all the money, all the 40 or 50 million dollars to pay back the cops is just going to be taken out of our ordinary sales tax.
No, sir, if I could, and I really just like to offer, maybe we could come back and have a session to dive deeper with our finance team from Larry Dorr's team and our outside consultants in finance. But I will tell you what I've been told by them is we're using some of that Central East URA. We're taking that URA money. We're allowed to transfer that to another URA that's being transferred. And it's funding the downtown URA at this time to pay back those certificates of participation. So it's not sales tax money. It's actually money that we're capturing from other districts such as the county, which we normally would not ever have seen.
Okay. So when I basically calculated and added it all up, I found that the city participation was a little over $7 million. The land acquisition was over $35 million. The assistance we gave to various people there was over $18 million, and the infrastructure costs were over $52 million, totaling $113 million, which I would call the money we spent to get the project ready to have land sale.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would qualify that as not just money to get it ready, but money to generate and leverage through partnerships to get development. So
Yeah, well, I mean, some were basically subsidies and incentives given.
for public-private
developers who built,
partnerships,
You know,
yeah.
like really Sherman got some incentives.
Right.
And Alamo Theater got like the theater tax for 3 years or
They
something.
did get some
right?
incentives, yeah.
Okay. Well, well, in addition to that, I didn't count the parks at over $29 million. And the interest on the cops over $26 million. I didn't count those. But so far, I only see land sales of a little over $14 million and future land sales of almost $38 million. So I see us as a very large net loss, even if we met all our land sales goals. And some of our goals are quite ambitious. Like I think the most we've sold is around a little over $3 million of land sales in a year. And we have 1 year at 10 and one at $11 million. And there's less and less land to sell each year. We're certainly not going to get that back at $25 a square foot. But even with those optimist projections, that's only a little over $50 million on $113 million we've spent. Am I calculating that right?
Certainly, sir, if you look at from a, purely a land, that one piece of it, but there's also all these other streams that we're generating from the property. So sales tax revenue, property tax revenue, and you know what, there's also the intangibles. You have built a place in your community where people can have a third place, where they can have a wonderful environment where they can come and congregate and meet their neighbors. So there's also some of these intangibles that I just don't want to get lost in the conversation about dollars and cents. But, I'm a numbers person, so if you just looked at land to land, but that land that we're selling is being used to perpetually generate new income for the city. And if you look at the end date of 2045, we end up net positive $445 million
Well,
at that time.
you're going to have to take out all of the tax increment from 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, because that was inappropriately included because the deal runs out in 38. That's when the 25-year URA TIF ends. And of course, even while that goes on, even though we are reaping that money, we're actually taking it from the county and the school district. Okay.
But we're returning back to the school districts a viable piece of property with a much higher tax levy and tax load, in return to the schools and the county and everybody at the end of 2038. The $50 million is, we're going to revisit these numbers in the spring, but the $50 million, if you look at the $74 to $80 million of property tax increment between now and 2038, and you add that to the $50 million, you're in the 130, 140 range without even adding the sales tax in there. So we will revisit all these numbers in the spring. We'll take a look at the market conditions, the fact that we're probably heading into a mild recession of some sort, and we'll try to make those adjustments. We'll have a full conversation on this in the spring, but the numbers between now and 2038, if you look at all the numbers you added up, and then you add the extra $70 million of property tax revenue between now and 2038, we're going to be revenue positive.
Well, schools don't get any sales tax. So, but this is so different than the original development model on the Westminster Mall. It's my understanding the original development model on the Westminster Mall is we gave Sherman Dryson, we annexed him to the city before Arvada could, and then we gave him water and sewer, and that was it, wasn't it?
And it failed,
It lived its life.
right?
No different than the Buckingham Mall or Cinderella City. That's part of business. That's part of the free market.
And if you look at what Brookfield did to the mall up there, they gave money. They gave $70 million to start the mall. Then they gave another $50 million less than 20 years later to tear it down because it was an obsolete approach to development. This property is built for resiliency, and I think you're going to see the value of this is going to be sustained, and it's not going to ever be obsolete. One building maybe, but it's far ahead of anything that's been built in the metro area today. I mean, frankly, it's far ahead of what we're seeing in the West. But I'll just stick to Denver. There's nothing like this in the suburban Denver market right now.
Okay, let's stick to we've got 10 more minutes, so
Good enough.
anything else?
I am pretty sure I'm understanding the numbers correctly. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? No? You have any? Okay, then we have 10 minutes to get ready for meeting.
Is this supposed to, you're saying this? To go away?
Opposed? Motion carries. Board Member Seymour?
Need the address. Okay. So many different city councils. The value the assessor will put on this property is on a per door basis. And there's about 220 doors on the property. And it's about $300,000 per door.
Okay.
Is the way the assessor will look at it. It'll be assessed at about 6%. You know, that varies every year. If you have any number questions, I can answer them all here. Otherwise,
I like number.
I can sit down.
When it comes to land value, I know that if we're talking single-family homes, we generally evaluate the land value. It's a range, of course, but somewhere around 20%. How do we do apartments? What is the land value there? And of course, to get the full land value is not only the price of the land we're selling them, but all of the utility taps, which they are paying the standard fare for.
You are correct. I'm not a land person. I'm a tax generation number.
We have a land person now.
Would somebody like to answer that?
Sure. Hi, I'm Mary Beth Jenkins, and I'm the real estate consultant to the city on this project. We typically look in multifamily at a per square foot land value, and we did you had asked in an executive session to make sure that the comp that we're selling this land for, which if we look at a per square foot basis, it's about $18.82 a square foot for 2.3 acres for about 240 units. So this is a dense product. So a lot of apartments are on wide pieces of land. So doing comps was a little challenging because we went out 7 miles. We found 2 that are somewhat similar, and they sold for $18 a square foot average. One was up in Broomfield. This was an apartment that is that's about 250 units. It will actually have, there's a parking garage nearby, which they're being given. The other, and it's on 3 acres. The other one was 6 acres, and it was at about $19 a foot, but they are doing surface parking. In this project, they are building 340 parking spaces as a podium and building this around it. So the 1882 is actually on the high side of the 2 comps that really would make sense to compare this to.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing nothing else, can we have roll call, please?
Board Member Baker,
No.
Vice Chair Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Azadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
and Board Member Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to item B1. Board Member Emmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I authorize the Westminster Economic Development Authority Executive Director to enter into a 1-year sole source agreement with the Laramie Company, LLC, to provide consult services for the downtown Westminster project.
Vice Chair Demott.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item B1. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker?
Thank you. I am very disappointed with the results we have received from our consultant. I would like to suggest a pause and to reassess, the direction we need to go. If I'm not mistaken, this contract doesn't end till the 1st of January. I could be mistaken.
No, you're good, Councilor Baker. Yeah, this contract ends December 31 of this year.
Thank you so much. So I think we have a little time to address that. So, well, I'd like to really table the motion and see if I get a second.
I do not see a second, so that will die. Any other comments? Roll call, please. Oh, sorry, your hand was in the red.
That's okay. I do know that we had some conversation around potentially, now that the market is proven, opening it up so that it's not exclusive. That's not to say that there hasn't been great work and a lot of great work by this group, but I would like, as a group, for us to look at what it would look like this next year to open this up so that we actually have a little bit more competition. Because I think part of the goal, since I've been on, that has been laid out to the board as well as council, is to prove the market, and the market's now proven. And so I think that it might behoove us as a city to move this along by allowing other people to help us market what we have left.
Councilor Numella, Board Member Numella.
With respect to opening this up, I would definitely be, participating in that conversation. But the concern that I have with experience of talking to other brokers with respect to this very project, there aren't many people who have done this kind of work and done this kind of been able to work on a project as unique as this. Especially with the vision that the city has. And so a lot of brokers tend to just go for the first thing that, the first deal they can get, and it's not really vision aligned. So the efficiency of that certainly did not work out in past conversations. So I just want to put that out there. It's a very technical and strategic approach that needs to be taken. And so if we do add anyone to the team, I'd really want them to be entrenched in the vision that the city has, the work that we've been doing.
I actually very much appreciate those comments, and that kind of leads to another point. I would be tempted to second Councilor Baker's tabling if I thought that we truly had time to have a full discussion before this contract was up. And I think the reality is what we might land with might be some sort of hybrid solution, as far as still using them and maybe other people. And that's what I would hope, that we would have that robust discussion so that we could understand if that is a good idea or if it's not a good idea. I just don't think that that's realistic to have that before January 1st. And that is why I am not in favor of tabling it. But I am very much in favor of us at least having that discussion, because I just feel like the project's at a place where we should be able to have a good discussion about it.
Board Member Seymour.
Thank you, Chair. Almost forgot whose title. I'll be voting in favor of both these articles tonight, because this project is a relationship deal, and it's about building relationships. We have seen that some of these projects have taken an extremely long time to come to ground, and in some cases had to circle back once, twice, 3 times. And some of those businesses, it was a great business choice on their part, because had they jumped in at that point, we would have a vacant spot again. And so this is about, I don't see us over the next 18 months losing any momentum. This project, those relationships are coming to fruition. We're talking about a very good mix of what we have here. We have a plan, and we've had a plan, and we've had this discussion about consulting too in detail with each other in previous sessions. And so I'm at a spot where I think we're at that critical point on this in the relationships that if those were dropped, we'd lose some opportunity. So this, to me, is a future opportunity cost to get us to that point.
Councilor Izadi?
Thank you, Chair. I am in complete agreement with Councilor Seymour. I think this is definitely a momentum decision and relationship decision. This consultant, to my understanding, understands and has all the connections. And with someone who has that much connection is still taking this long, I fear if we switch course now, that would definitely ruin the momentum that we've built there. So I would like to vote in favor of both of these.
Board Member Emmons?
Thank you. I'm going to take a little bit of what all of my colleagues have said, but I will be in favor of this tonight. I think that we're running out of time for a contract, and I don't want to make a rash decision for one. This has been on our top of our conversation for quite a long time, and I'm okay with moving forward with it. I would like to maybe suggest to my colleagues that to not disregard Mayor Pro Tem and Councilor Baker's ask is to make a date certain of this coming back to council. I want to say before March, if that's appropriate, so that we could have not only a deeper dive of what we've discussed in our pre-meeting, but how this relates to what we'll be talking about and as it relates to a free market discussion. So I'd like to maybe put a time frame on it if we could. I don't know if that's something that we can shoot for. I'll leave that up to our city manager, but I'd like to make a date certain if possible.
City Manager?
Yes, Madam Chairperson. I think that I heard our economic development team mention that we already are scheduled for a by the end of first quarter kind of review of this project from a numbers perspective. And so I think that maybe combining, these two items, numbers piece of this and really kind of, whether we move forward with a singular consultant or multiple is open to a great conversation as part of a study session. And so it's okay and it pleases the board here, by the end of first quarter, I think we could come back with that kind of a study session discussion.
Perfect. Then I'm good. Thank you.
I don't see any objections.
Thank you. Will do.
Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Azadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour,
Yes.
and Board Member Baker.
No.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to item B2. Board Member Emmons?
I authorize the Westminster Economic Development Authority Executive Director to enter into a 1-year sole source agreement with the Laramie Company LLC to provide brokerage services for the downtown Westminster project.
Vice Chair Demott?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item B2. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Azadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour,
Yes.
Board Member Baker,
No.
Vice Chair Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
And it is 7:15, and I will adjourn the WIDA meeting and moving right along to the City Council meeting, incorporating the roll call from the last meeting. I will ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I better ask, City Clerk, is it okay to incorporate the?
It is okay
Okay,
to
thank
incorporate
you.
the roll call.
Next is move to approve minutes of the October 24th meeting. Councilor Emmons?
I move to approve the minutes of the October 24th, 2022 meeting as presented.
Councilor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 24th. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to our employee awards. We will be inviting the award winners down. Please, any family members, friends, whoever you brought with you or to come down. If they don't, we'll go out and get them and bring them down to you. But I know first one up is Tim Guthrie. So would you meet me down front? Hello? There we go. Tim, who did you bring with tonight? And if people don't know, it's Miss Guthrie that taught us all how to make cinnamon rolls. And it's her recipe I use. She's special. Tim Guthrie began his career with the City of Westminster in 1997 as a communications specialist 1 with police and fire dispatch. In August of 99, Tim was hired as a police officer and was assigned to the patrol division. In 2001, he was accepted as a school resource officer at Westminster High School and served as the SRO for 5 years. He attained the rank of senior police officer. Tim was then accepted into motorcycle unit in the traffic division. Tim was certified as a level 3 accident reconstruction technician, served on the accident reconstruction team, taught alive at 25, educating young drivers and coordinated the police department's involvement in the 4th of July celebration. Tim also served on the crisis intervention team, the PD Awards Board, and served as a DUI instructor and field training instructor. In 2013, Tim transferred to the Westminster Fire Department. As a firefighter 1, Tim was promoted to the position of fire paramedic in fire investigations in September of 2016, and October 22 was promoted to lieutenant of fire investigations. He is a member of the fire investigation team, the Adams Jeffco Hazmat team, the North Area Peer Support team, and Department Honor Guard. Tim and Amy have been married 9 years, and they have a 30-year-old son, Jacob. You guys are too. Oh, Tim's. Oh, Tim stays busy by teaching paramedic and EMT activities with Jacob and serves on the safety team at his church. Tim also continues to volunteer his time as firefighter for the Pleasant View Fire Department in Golden. Okay, do we have Jeremy Hill? Oh, and I should say that the envelope I gave is $2,500. They get $100 for every year when they reach their 25 years. Jeremy Hill was hired in 1997 as part-time benefited lifeguard at the Swim and Fitness Center. He later worked in other positions at the same facility, including guest relations clerk and assistant pool manager. In 2001, Jeremy moved to the fire department as a management intern, and in 2003, he earned a firefighter position. He was promoted to fire paramedic in 2005, to fire lieutenant EMS coordinator in 2016, and to emergency medical services chief in 2019. Jeremy completed the National Fire Academy's Managing Officer Program in 2019 and has received life-saving medals during his career. Jeremy enjoys spending time with his wife and 6-year-old daughter and spends his other free time snowbirding, fly fishing, and camping. And our last person is Veronica Smith.
I brought my husband Bill, my son Jared, and I have wonderful coworkers who showed up to support me.
Thanks for being here tonight. Veronica Smith began working as an automation coordinator for the city in 1997 when the library only had one server and a few public computers for searching the catalog. Those computers were the kind that had green text on a black screen, and the cursor would blink, waiting for you to type in your search. Over the years, the library has grown to over 140 full-service computers, 25 servers, a virtual library branch, a state-of-the-art catalog. Most recently, Veronica helped implement technology to bring the library into the community in a new and unique ways, including the Library to Go van and 3 mini library kiosks in city recreation centers. Over the years, Veronica has made the opportunity to supervise almost every work group in the library, but her favorite group is still the automation services. In addition, Veronica has been privileged to serve on the Employee Recognition Action Team for many years, helping recognize the accomplishments of fellow employees. Veronica has been married to her husband, Bill, for, is it 34 years? Okay, we have the math right there. They have had 3 grown children and a new son-in-law. They also have 2 Havanese dogs. What are those like? You know, if it's not a pug, I don't know. Her favorite hobbies are growing a vegetable garden, crocheting, solving digital jigsaw puzzles, and most of all, spending time with her family. Next is Councilor Baker.
Would like to have Troy go down there and his crew come down and join me. So it is my of the pleasure to really will announce the 30-year service awards. Troy Godaner was really hired in 1992 as a police officer. And from the year 2000 to 2005, he was assigned to the Special Crime Attack Team, during which he was on that design for the current gang identification program that is used statewide. In really 2007, Troy became a really detective assigned as the intelligence officer. And in 2010, his duties of liquor enforcement officer were added. Troy is a terrorism liaison officer, PLO, for the Department of Homeland Security. In his capacity as the intelligence detective, he is assigned sensitive and complex cases that require a great deal of he is assigned sensitive and complex cases that require a great deal of awareness and really of the negotiating, the collateral consequences and the influence of such cases. For the past 24 years, Troy has been an emergency vehicle operations instructor, and he is really currently the lead driving instructor for the city of Westminster. In his role as a driving instructor, Troy really continues to be a very influential leader in the dispersion and advancement of the PIT maneuver to other law enforcement agencies. For the past 2 decades, Troy has also been a member of the Westminster police SWAT team as a negotiator. In 2004, Troy was appointed as the team leader for the SWAT negotiations, an appointment that reflects his exceptional skills and competence, leadership, and professionalism. Troy has also been directly involved in and positively influenced numerous SWAT incidents of the most critical nature over his 24 years. He recently retired from the negotiations team. Troy just got married this year to Jamie. Troy has 2 children and 2 of the stepchildren. In his spare time, he enjoys hiking, cooking, and being a dad. He is exceptionally proud to be a cheer dad for his daughter, who regularly competes at the national level that includes the coveted National Summit Cheer Competition. His daughter will graduate from high school this year. Troy is also extremely proud of his son, who is graduating from the CU at Boulder as a technology and software engineer. Troy's of the stepchildren are active in tennis, hockey, and academics. His wife Janie has been proudly serving Jefferson County Public Schools for 24 years as a first grade teacher. Why don't you introduce him?
My son Chase.
No check. Thank you very much for your service.
The distinct honor of presenting the 35-year award. Could I have Mike Lynch and his family join me up here? Well, Mike Lynch was hired as a in November 1987. He was promoted through the ranks to engineer in July of 1991. Mike became a lieutenant in May 2004, and Mike served on the apparatus committee for 20 years, assisting the department with the procurement of major fire apparatus. Mike was a member of the technical rescue team for over 7 years. The Westminster Public Safety Foundation has presented Mike with 2 awards. In 2004, he received the Life-Saving Medal for his actions at an early morning fire in July 1997. Using a ladder, he saved the lives of 3 residents that were trapped on an upper floor of a burning apartment building. In 2003, Mike received a life-saving pin for his assistance in rescuing a potential drowning victim at Kettner Reservoir. While off duty, Mike's hobbies include golfing, working out, and spending time with his family. His wife, Melanie, his 2 daughters, Kelly and Kendra, and their granddaughter, Raylan. Congratulations on your 35 years. And then we also have Greg Biggers, who is not able to attend tonight, but I would like to recognize him nonetheless. Greg Biggers was originally hired by the city in 1987 as a lifeguard at Park Recreation Center. In 1990, he moved to the police department and worked in the records division. He also worked as a report specialist before joining code enforcement in 2000. Code enforcement was part of the police department until 2019. This division moved to the community development department. Greg's goal in code enforcement has always been to make and keep the city a good place to live. He is very proud of the work that he has accomplished and was awarded Teams in Action Awards in 2005, 2009, and 2015. He has seen a lot of changes in the city and feels very privileged to have been a small part of that history. Greg has been with his lovely wife, Dina, for 27 years. Hope that's correct. And have 4 wonderful and successful, mostly adult children. Even though they are almost empty nesters, they do enjoy spending time with the family, shooting hoops, playing games, and video games, watching the Avalanche and Broncos, having family dinners, and taking trips. When Greg gets some free time, he likes to read and draw. Greg and Dina do plan on doing a lot more traveling very soon. Whoever you are, Greg, thank you for your years of service.
Counselor Izadi will do our 40-year award.
So I don't believe Michelle Chandamar is here, but I will read and recognize her. So 40 years. Michelle began her career in 1982 as a 17-year-old high school student trainee in fire administration, where she worked 11 years in various administrative roles. In 1993, Michelle joined the Information Technology Department team, where she has worked for 29 years. She is currently a senior technical support specialist. Michelle enjoys spending time with family and friends, growing in her faith, traveling to the beach, going to concerts, walking, reading, baking, and photography. Michelle and Dan have been married for 26 years. Someone check that, please. Now we have to check all these numbers now. Have 2 grown children, DJ and Marissa. DJ and his wife, Ashton, have 3 kids, Bodie, Elsie, and Lucy. And Marissa and her husband, Justin, are expecting their first little girl, Adeline, in February. Bring on the pink. Dan also works for the city in public works as a streets foreman. Between the two, they have 70 years of service with the city of Westminster. Thank you for your service, Michelle.
Next, we have our proclamation for Small Business Saturday. Volunteers are here, and are you coming down? No? Counselor Seymour will present that.
You make sure Larry comes down here too. Yeah. Thank you.
He's got his Italian mask on
Larry
tonight.
and Dino Valente.
It's a good thing you guys aren't mathematicians.
Yeah, we make a pretty good comedy team though. So I'm here to present our recognition of Small Business Saturday. Small Business Saturday was formed in 2010 in the middle of the Great Recession, and it was to recognize small businesses and the impacts that they have on their community. And it's worked so well that last year, over $23.3 billion were spent on Small Business Saturday, which falls between Black Friday and the never-ending Cyber Monday, or whatever they call it now. And so that was a 19% increase over pre-pandemic. So Small Business Saturday, it's taken hold. It's a great way for us to support local businesses. And you're going to be buried that Sunday or Saturday, right? Hundreds of people lined up. Yeah. Well, they absolutely are. Especially the ones that we clean, not that other company. Okay. All right. I'd like to read this proclamation and present it to Larry. And, whereas the government of Westminster, Colorado celebrates our local small business and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 33.2 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.9% of all businesses, employing 46.4% of all employees, and are responsible for 64% of net new jobs created over the last 20 years. Whereas 94% of Westminster's businesses are small businesses who create jobs and spur economic growth. Whereas an estimated 70% of consumers understand the importance of supporting small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, and 66% reported that day makes them want to shop small all year long, whereas 50% of 7% Americans say they put a lot of numbers in this one. Yeah, thank you. Spent a local small businesses, 67% say that their community generated additional 50 cents in economic impact for a local community. And whereas Westminster, Colorado supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods, and advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Nancy McNally, Mayor of Westminster, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year.
It was a special day because Dino even got his beard trimmed. Thank you. That brings us to public comment. And do we have people signed up?
We do. The first person on my list is Lisa McGrath. No, Lisa. My apologies.
Welcome.
First, thank you for all you do. Appreciate it. I am here to talk about making the case for strengthening the case for Sloan's Lake to remain a no-wake reservoir. So first, the paddle boarders, kayakers, canoers, rowers, and sailboats really have a great deal of difficulty coexisting with motorboats. The high speeds of motorboats, they just are unable to see the smaller craft, and it's dangerous for us. The idea of putting a parameter around a reservoir, like some of the other lakes do, to designate a no wake zone, doesn't work very well because the motorboats come right up to buoys and the wakes just continue on through the no wake zone, and it's dangerous for us. We're in trouble. The metro area is skewed already in favor of motorboat venues. There are quite a few places where motorboats can put in and have some high-speed fun. There's Boulder Reservoir, Cherry Creek, Chatfield, Carter Lake, Horsetooth, Windsor Lake, Bear Creek Lake. There's quite a few of them. In contrast, there's very few larger bodies of water that are designated no-wake reservoir. That most of the no-wake reservoirs are surrounded by residential development, and they're just too small to put on a craft, a sailboat or a rowing boat or a paddle boat. The only one I can think of that I did a little bit of research on is Union Reservoir, and that's in Longmont. So the non-motorboat community is really underserved in the metro area. Most fun is better for the nature preserve that's out there at Standing Lake. And we don't generate any air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution, or disturb wildlife. So no-wake sports are exploding in popularity all over the world. Paddleboarding has in the last year increased 5% globally. Kayaking has grown 83% in the last decade, just in North America. I have several boats out at Union Reservoir, which is a no-wake reservoir. And since the 2020 pandemic, the use of paddleboards and kayaks and canoes have just completely exploded. Union is about 60% of the size of Standing Lake. And frequently on the weekend, they just fill the capacity before noon. There's actually a sign on the road leading up to the reservoir that says, if you're stopped here in line, turn around because you're not going to get in today. The line place for stand-up paddleboards extends these crafts, and they're typically not available. So, if Standing Lake can hold on to that. I think that there's the opportunity to develop significant streams of revenue based on no-wake craft, and it will generate virtually no environmental impact.
The next speaker is Katja Stokely.
Welcome. I'm also here to speak to the advantages of a no-wake scenario on Sandy Lake, and I thank you for your time. I am a para rower. I'm a member of Peak Rowing, which is the only rowing club in Colorado that has a program for adaptive athletes. We welcome all rowers, especially with funding from the Veterans Administration and programs specifically designed for disabled veterans and disabled service members, some of whom have PTSD or traumatic brain injury. There are approximately 400,000 veterans in Colorado. It's also estimated that 20% of adults in Colorado have a disability. That's over 8 million people. All rowers and paddlers, as Lisa has just said, welcome no-wake water as a safer and easier way to enjoy their recreation. But disabled rowers, especially our visually impaired rowers, and our veteran rowers, especially those with PTSD, really flourish in an environment that is free of loud noises and unexpected waiting. To the best of my knowledge, Standing Lake is unique on the Front Range and in Colorado in that it has a wheelchair accessible route to the water, which Union Reservoir Longmont, for example, does not have. It has low docks that are suitable for unpowered craft and are essential for rowers with mobility disabilities to get to their boats and launch their boats. And it has, as
of now no-powered watercraft. So this is a unique gem that you have, and I encourage you to cherish it. And I encourage you to leverage the increasing demand for calm water for able-bodied and disabled rowers and paddlers alike. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Natalie Ormond.
Hello, Westminster City Council. My name is Natalie Ormond, and I am with Peak Rowing Club as their president. Currently, I'm committed to serving master, veteran, and disabled rowers at Stanley Lake. As a physical therapist, access for recreation in behalf of the performance populations is a passion of mine. Rowing in particular is a whole body workout, expending calories faster than most other sports. If any of you have stepped on an erg, you know. So clinical research overwhelmingly support a regular basis could significantly reduce anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Our veterans with these complications from service deserve a wakeless, quiet place to row without exacerbating any of their mental health. If anyone from this council would like specific studies on how exercise helps these conditions, I am happy to provide them. In addition to this, as an adaptive rowing club, there are only 56 in the United States. When looking at the Intermountain West, that statistic is even more unique. We are one of 6 clubs in Colorado that are limited in bodies of water that can support rowing, and the only club with real adaptive access. Our goals are to create multi-paddler regattas that can become a tradition of fun and revenue. We're working with Holly Walters, she's the superintendent of open spaces at Stanley Lake, to get an event in place during the summer of 2023. We successfully started a Learn to Row course this past summer, where we took a oar board and hooked it to a stand-up paddle board to teach people how to row. And we only had a short period of time to fill those slots, but they were starting to fill, and we're hoping to make it much more successful this coming summer. Due to the lack of oxygen. Given this is more likely to the low water levels, however, in the research article, Impacts of Recreational Motorboats on Fish is a review, it states, pollution arising from fuel spillages, exhaust emissions, and anti-fouling paints all have detrimental effects on fishes. I am an outdoor enthusiast and enjoy not only rowing, but fishing our many lakes in Colorado with my family. I am interested in protecting our remaining fish population and other species that are negatively impacted by the presence of motorboats. This naturally bridges the gap to the use of Stanley Lake as a drinking water source. Obviously, if it isn't good for wildlife, it isn't good for humans to drink. Thank you for considering my points tonight on underserved paddlers, wildlife refuge, and the coexistence of them at Stanley Lake.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Alan Farb.
Welcome.
Computers or computer operators. So I want to talk about the city's continuum of compassion for its homeless residents. I find this to be a rather disingenuous phrase that the city, primarily through this council, enjoys, endorses, parades around as if it's being kind, merciful, and humane, when in fact you are practicing the opposite. Continuum of compassion, I don't even know if you really understand the term. Continuum means something that changes in character gradually without clear dividing points. It does not mean you are continuing a process, and in this case, a process of compassion. And as for compassion, compassion is defined as a strong feeling of sympathy and sadness for the suffering or bad luck of others and a wish to help them. While there might be a few members of this council who honestly follow this definition of compassion when it comes to our adult homeless residents and truly wish to help them, as a group, your direction clearly follows the opposite path. Yes, the city has, before most of you now sat on the council, the city has invested in bringing on board first one, now two homeless navigators who are the city's face of compassion. These two outreach workers can only do what they can in only so much time with the tools they have. And those tools, time and effort, can assist only so many people. Conversely, the city's efforts to effectively eradicate not homelessness, but the homeless themselves. The city, through this council, shows little, if any, honest compassion. Just now, in a matter of less than 2 weeks, the city has yet again forced between 25 and 30 adults to move from their resting places, campsites, if you will, and yet again disperse them without any designated safe place to go because the city chooses not to create such designated safe areas. Case in point, the city, I believe, just recently made clear that it chooses to give Jefferson County $1 million of this city's targeted homeless funding to be used for a years away homeless resource center, maybe 2 centers, perhaps in the cities of Arvada and Lakewood. So that is to give neighboring cities Westminster dollars in hopes that Westminster's homeless will migrate to these cities and out of the cities. I find this ignorant and short-sighted in this as a reality of our resident homeless. You keep moving people, but they just go elsewhere within the city. And why? Because Westminster is their home. You know that, the police know that, city staff knows that. The city of Aurora recently invested in 60 pallet shelters to house up to 120 people, with 20 of those pallet homes dedicated to people swept from Aurora campsites. How this city could have effectively used that $1 million in a similar way to help safely house up to 100 resident homeless and move them from the camps you don't want. But this city council acts otherwise. And then I wonder, how do you expect your own navigators, your 2 navigators, how do you expect them to do their jobs when you have your police and parks ranger disperse so many people, which makes it even more difficult and challenging for your own homeless navigators to effectively do their jobs? It's insanity. And this is what you call a continuum of compassion. The city chooses not to develop an honest continuum. Instead, they come up with this protocols that you tout, and you call this part of your continuum of compassion, when in reality, your protocols are based almost entirely on the steps of how to remove and redistribute your resident homeless via the use of its police force. You have no continuum of compassion. You merely adopted a fancy phrase that was coined by others to use, and you misuse it. It's occurred to hide your true actions, which are not to mitigate the plight of the homeless, but to eliminate, eradicate, or technical language, abate them. You can only hide behind the curtain of this disingenuous compassion for so long. People are going to see what's really happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jean Campbell.
Welcome.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Gene Campbell, and I am the director of the RWF Warrior Field Ops Division. We are part of the Romans Warrior Foundation. My division is based here in Colorado, and we are responsible for offering recreational therapy services to first responders, veterans, and their families. We offer such services as fishing, kayak fishing, camping, golf, hiking, anything else that can engage them in the outdoors. Recreational therapy is used to assist these warriors in working through PTS, anxiety, depression, transition back to civilian life, and simply overall quality of life. I'm here this evening to speak with you about a topic you plan to cover during your November 21st study session. The topic in question is the balancing act of security and access to Stanley Lake, specifically the recreational use of this water by trailered watercraft. Now, I contemplated whether or not to show up with a bunch of scientific data to impress upon you why this is a bad move. That's not going to get the message across that I want you to hear today. Instead, I wish to speak directly to each and every one of you about our vested interest in you maintaining Stanley Lake in its current state. As the young lady said before me, you do have a gem on your hands here. It provides homes and hunting grounds for many species of animals, and it also provides a place where your citizens can partake in a tremendous amount of activities which all promote physical and mental health well-being. Specifically speaking, Stanley Lake and its current state is why we at the Romans Warrior Foundation began to work with this park and why we plan to host the majority share of our future recreational therapy events there next year. You see, the safety of these warriors we serve is our number one priority. In its current state, Stanley Lake provides a safe environment where people can engage all of the lake activities without worry of other craft. The coexistence of paddlecraft and recreational boating traffic in a small confined space is at very best dangerous. Recreational boating all over the metro area. What is not available all over the metro area is what you currently have. You have a very special place that countless people and wildlife have come to love and enjoy. You're among those people right now, as you see, have been speaking to you here this evening. We also represent a very large portion of those folks in your local community. Those folks wouldn't come before you and ask you to change your mind. Matter of fact, they've been trained not to. They would follow orders that were put in front of them and they would carry on. That's why I'm here. We at the Romans Warrior Foundation have agreed to be their voice when it comes to these type of activities. If trailered watercraft are brought to Stanley Lake, it will remove its number one asset that attracted us in the first place. The Romans Warrior Foundation will have no choice but to reconsider the usage of this water and the park. The RWF Warrior Field Ops Division and the entire network of the Romans Warrior Foundation encourages you to please consider the impact this decision has on all aspects and all groups of your community. We humbly ask you to not let one group's silence persuade you to make a decision that removes resources from them. The truth of this matter and topic is this: a decision to allow trailered watercraft provides a convenience to a group of citizens that desire it. A convenience is not a need. Fast food restaurants offer convenience. What usually takes a back seat with those is quality and control. There are many other options for recreational boating in the metro area. The same cannot be said for paddlecraft, wildlife management, and your drinking water. That scientific data I spoke about earlier would probably also show you the net result of this increased traffic when balanced against the loss of other traffic and the needed resources to manage properly the new traffic. You're not going to find that positive impact you think you will. We encourage you all to consider the entire impact that a decision such as this will have. Is a convenience more important than the needs of a section of your community that has more than paid for the ability to enjoy the healing benefits that Stanley Lake currently provides? Stanley Lake is too important to let it become another statistic in the state. We ask you to fully protect what you have and consider all groups in your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dawn Marie Schwapok. I apologize.
Hello, City Council members. I am Dawn Marie Schwabhack, and it's fine that you butchered my name. Most people do. It's 10 letters long, and you spit when you say it. Anyways, I am here to speak to you tonight also about Stanley Lake. I am a proud coach of peak rowing, and I am a U.S. rowing coach and referee. I am also the proud sister of a Marine veteran, which is why I began working with this population. I have been coaching rowing steadily in Colorado since 2002. I've coached Cherry Creek, I've coached in indoor gyms, I have coached people who do not have access to a leg or do not have access to an arm. I have coached PTSD, I have coached traumatic brain injuries, and I have coached severe learning disabilities. I have coached Asperger's. I have coached stroke victims. I feel like I am a very privileged expert in this field at this point in time. Being a referee, I often witness many safety incidents on the water that involve both motorcraft and manually powered craft. Unfortunately, I have witnessed blatant disregard for safety, and probably a lack of information, including a lack of training in boater safety. I have witnessed jet skis intentionally capsize a double with 2 juniors in it, 2 high school students, and go roaring off laughing. I have witnessed experienced boaters, at least I assume they are. They're my age, and they are obviously enough to understand that they are driving a motorcraft, run into or collide with an 8 and yell at teenagers, and then drive off quickly when they realize that this insured craft, it is now officially their fault that it is wrecked, because that is a $60,000 boat that you have just destroyed. Rowing has been transformative for the athletes I have worked with. I have had the privilege to referee at the Warrior Games. I have watched double amputees walk out and proudly compete for their country after showing off their Paralympic medals. For my brother, we went out and rowed several times on Union Lake, and he got into the car calm and focused. He said, "I feel like now I can take on the world and win." That is something for somebody who has a shot wound to the head to say is the thing that keeps me going. Anyways, our former home was on Lake Union. The Lake Union Scullers were disbanded. There has been no home for us until Stanley Lake. Other rowing clubs are concerned for our safety, quite honestly, and concerned about the insurance costs. On Stanley Lake, we do not have to worry about those safety risks as nearly as much. Of course, we are going to monitor our rowers. I am not going to put a double amputee in a boat who's strapped in out there and just say, "Hey, have fun." I would be going out with him in a double, or we would be going out in a larger boat and making sure that everyone is safe and secure. But we can only do that well without the risk of motorboat traffic. I appreciate that you want to include everyone in your community. But as has been said several times, this is a very special lake and a very special spot. We were so looking forward to this being our home next summer, and we would love to continue that dream. Please take this into consideration when you are having your discussions next week. I beg you, for not only as a sister, but also as a coach and an advocate for my athletes. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is John Palmer. Welcome.
Good evening. First off, I'd like to thank our new city manager, Mr. Freitag. Study session last week, very informative with your presentation. I hope we can continue with something I haven't seen in many years. These also are directed you up, unfortunately or fortunately. Back in 2018, the city opted to put in new water meters because our old ones were insufficient. At that time, the city guaranteed and promised the citizens a porthole on the city's website where they could go and check their daily or hourly usage. I've heard more excuses than Carter's got pills why this isn't in play. Perhaps you can get to the bottom of that and not give only me an answer, but give the people in this community, in this city, an answer why the ball's been dropped there. Moving right along to social media, the city has on Comcast, Channel 8. It's been out of service for almost 3 years now. Again, 100 excuses why we can't get it fixed, why it's not working. And this day and age, that's another avenue that we need to be able to reach out to our seniors, to the people that don't have a way to communicate with the city. It's a valuable resource, why we're not using it, why there's been a breakdown. Other cities seem to be able to do it without any problems. And finally, something that I've been on the city about I've been on the city about both of these for several months with no luck. But finally, there's an open space down here in South Westminster, the Sunset Open Space. There's been a problem down there with people that have encroached into the city's open space. And I don't mean by inches or feet, I mean by yards. I'd like to get an update, and I'm sure the people in South Westminster would like an update on what's going on down there, when it'll be completed, and when that area will be secured. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last speaker I have signed up. We do have one voicemail.
Thank you. City Manager Freitag.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, members in attendance today, and certainly members of the community that may be watching. So we have a few slides to run through for a city update. So could we get the next slide, please? So first thing I wanted to share with folks is the city recently expanded library services to the MAC by installing a third Rec and Read library kiosk and book drop. And these kiosks hold 125 popular books for adults and children. Children's books also support the MAC's Kinder Kids and Tiny Tots programs. And so good news for our community. Road closures, Public Works and Utilities closed Elliott Street between 80th Avenue and 81st Avenue last week to install a 12-inch water pipe under the roadway. And this next week, staff will close Elliott Street for one day to secure the pipe on the project's north side. So if you live in that area, just wanted to make sure folks live or work, wanted to make sure that folks were aware. And then Bradley Gas Station, that has been demolished. It's an aged facility. It was demolished last week. It's at the corner of 72nd Avenue and Irving Street. Many community complaints and issues related to homelessness, trespassing, dumping, graffiti, and crime. And so again, a good news story for the community. One thing that's not on the slides that I did want to just share with the council and the community, this past week, being a new member of the community, I heard the news report that Jefferson County was going to have to close 16 schools. And, you know, I took it and, okay, isn't that sad? And then just today I learned that 2 of those schools are in Westminster, and that frankly surprised me, but that's part of being new. And so I did not realize that when I heard that story last week. But I will, you know, assure the council and certainly the community that the city will work with our community partners at the school district and certainly our residents in how we can best help them all navigate this change. And so I just wanted to share that with the council. Some Westy wins and just good news story for the community. The Holiday Craft Show drew a record crowd this year. And so the annual Holiday Craft Show on November 5th, it hosted 68 high quality vendors and drew over 2,500 holiday shoppers. And that's just a great news story. It did attract record-sized crowd by producing more than 1 million marketing impressions supporting the event, which is pretty cool. So a Westy win. Also, the city scores second place in the Digital Cities Survey. Not something that I was aware of. Learned that during my orientation as I came aboard the city. And so what this does, we took second place in the Digital City Survey in our population range. And the Center for Digital Government ranks U.S. cities on their efforts to improve digital citizen and government experiences through technology and leadership. And I think what's impressive is that this year's award represents the 19th top 10 ranking for the city, and also the second time it's received a second place award nationwide. And so great work by our IT team and certainly the city as a whole. So another Westy win. Next slide. Some things to know, just to make sure folks are tracking some things here in the community. Irving Street Playground Community Barbecue, that goes this Wednesday, 3 to 5:30 p.m. at the Irving Street Library. Special Permits and License Board meets this Wednesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. here at City Hall and Council Chambers. Santa is coming to Westview. That's this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Westview Recreation Center. You do need to register for that. And then, as already mentioned, a week from tonight, the City Council will hold its next study session, begins at 6:30 here in City Hall. Next slide. And then I'd like to just remind folks, please, if you've got issues, you've got questions, you've got concerns, you're certainly welcome to reach out to the city manager's office. We will get after it and get a response to you. Our number is 303-658-2006. You can email me directly, mfreitag@cityofwestminster.us. And I encourage folks to connect with us on social media. We're certainly on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're even on Nextdoor, although I don't know what that is, so I got to find out. All right? So pending any questions, that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for the manager? Thank you. And that brings us to council comments. Anyone? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to quickly give some recognition and thanks to the police department for putting on yet another Citizen Academy. I know that the majority of council has went through the Citizen Academy, and both our police and fire host one. It was a great opportunity to thank we got to go to the graduation this last Thursday, and it's a great opportunity both to thank the police officers who put that on for the citizens, but also the citizens who take time away from their family to learn the job that those folks do and understand why we're so grateful on this council for those folks that do those jobs. And as we head into the holiday seasons, with Thanksgiving coming up, this will be our last meeting before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving from my family to yours. And on those first responders, if you see fire or police, shake their hand, because a lot of them are going to take time away from their family to make sure the city's safe while we're being able to enjoy our family.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Councilor Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to maybe give a different opinion, but first I want to thank Mr. Farb because he is a tireless advocate for the homeless, and for those who cannot or choose not to advocate for themselves. And I want to recognize that it is a personal calling of his. And so I want to first recognize that. But also, I have a very different take on this. I have a front row view, 10 plus hours a day at my business. And I have been able to witness over the last 4+ weeks our team in action and delivering on that compassion. We've had 2 gentlemen who have been struggling to find their way in the world at our strip center. And the work that our police department have done on a daily, nightly, every shift in Beat 60, especially a couple officers that are on day shift that have made contact with these gentlemen, given them advice, provided them help, not just our navigators, but also our mental health co-responders on site, day in and day out. And then also members of the fire department from Station 5 coming to do wellness check on these gentlemen, trying to just help them get by. And then also all the way up the chain to Kate Scarbeck, trying to make contacts, getting one gentleman in particular connected back with family, because that's where, you know, that connection really helps and gets them extraordinary levels of care that goes above and beyond, I think, even what most of the businesses in our strip center really wish to tolerate, because it was not a positive for our business. But we also recognize that these gentlemen were getting help and being offered the services as they move forward, which included really working hard with them on the really cold night we had last week to get them cold shelter when they preferred not to, because that's the choice that they have made. But I see it differently. I see it very differently. I saw the time and the effort and the compassion and a process to work with these gentlemen to put them in a different place. And so I see it differently too. It's not just about money. We are not Aurora. We are not Denver. We are not a county. We don't have those kind of resources that come to us for these. So we looked at that $1 million and said, how can we take that $1 million and combine it and make that $1 million turn into $5, $6, $7, $8 million? We can't build a wraparound service for $1 million. We can't staff it after that. So throwing it out there and throwing some tents out there are not going to give us any kind of resolution to what we have to deal with in our community and what our businesses are having to deal with and what our residents are dealing with. But we are addressing this to the absolute best of our ability and the ability of these people who take it to heart, and that I've been able to see. I wish I had a camera at the front of my office, but I have a different take. And I wish I would have been able to have a camera and show the last 3-4+ weeks of what happened in front of our businesses and the effort that was put towards that and how it works on the ground. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Uzadi?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take a third take on the situation. So I would like to echo the sentiment to Mr. Farb. I think his passion is obvious and is necessary as the nights get colder. We do need a solution here. I think there is compassion, but I think there is also more we can do. So I'm sort of in the middle here. I've been calling for things like emergency shelters. I think we can fund a nonprofit who focuses on that. We don't have to maintain it. We don't have to operate it, but we could do a lot more searching and connecting and figuring out the experts and the maintenance operators who could actually do this and set something up in our city. Because to Mr. Farb's point, a building in a different city is not the best. It's something that we chose to do, and I still back that the $1 million was spent well. But I think we can find resources and we can do more. It's not a resource issue, in my opinion. It's a will issue. And as these nights get colder, we have a serious problem that really requires us to be doing more. So I'm sort of in the middle here where I would like to see us do more. To the folks who gave comment on the building issue, thank you for coming out. That was powerful. It definitely gives me a lot to think about related to that topic, and I'm just glad that you came. So thank you.
Councilor Namela?
Similar to Councilor Azadi, I am also hoping that we can do more as a community. I know we are hampered by the fact that we don't receive funding, similar to the way that counties, or unlike the way that counties receive additional funding for human services. And counties are well equipped to help address human service issues, including helping people find home and shelter. And as somebody who's worked in the development side of things, $1 million towards a project that's kind of ready to go, that's ready to break ground until we found out tonight, maybe not. Typically that's a good way to go, because that means that we are actually creating spaces that can serve our community, that are more permanent than just an emergency shelter. So I just wanted to point that out. The second thing I was just going to note this evening, and I did really appreciate hearing from the folks that were speaking to the watercraft activities on Stanley Lake. I did not know that it was serving a population of our community that has a need for more still water recreational opportunities. I have not yet gone through the agenda memo for next Monday, and I will be out of town, so I will be providing some comments and probably have some additional questions once I go through it. But I would ask that if we are, and maybe it's already in here, but if we are looking at what are the impacts, or what is our risk tolerance, what are impacts, I'd like to understand the fiscal impact of adding motorized vehicles back to Stanley Lake. So in terms of cleaning, does that impact our water cleaning, the cleaning of the water? Anything there? Do we have to, what is the cost of additional monitoring? I was seeing a lot of language for that would require a lot more careful monitoring than we currently do. And I would like to see the potential impact for this non-motorized vehicle amenity source, and could that help provide some additional revenues to the park? So both those sides of it. Okay, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem. Councilor Emmons.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who came out and let us know your thoughts. It's not always easy to do, and I appreciate hearing different points of view. I think what she was talking about, it was a little hard to hear on the voicemail, but the PFAS, I wanted to address that, is that CDPHE is that we're following all regulations in our city. I know our neighbors did have to notify their residents of some PFAS levels, but because of the hard work of our Westminster staff, we are at below minimum reporting levels, and that we are meeting all regulations, and the city of Westminster does exceed that. So just wanted to reassure whoever called that we are meeting current levels for safe drinking water. I also attended the Citizens Police Academy. I went through it in 2019, and I will tell you, man, they upped their game. I kind of want to go through it again, just because of learning through all of the different variations that they had in the course. They added some new things. They enhanced some things. So major kudos to our police department and citizens who attended. I will say that listening to stories from our citizens, the police department not only helped and supported and assisted those residents, but they shared their experiences through that. And so that just is a testament to our police department and what we do for our community. That also then lends into the meeting that Councilor Seymour, myself, and the mayor attended for Westminster Public Schools, which was also an important conversation with a string of unfortunate shootings in the past few weeks and months. And our police department joined in the conversation with our school district and other representatives from the county and other surrounding neighbors. But it was just the overall really good conversation. And just to hear, I think the biggest takeaway for me was hearing from the students and how much it impacted, how much it's impacting their lives, and what we could do as a community to support them. And then I also wanted to just kind of briefly touch on the continuum of care. And Mr. Harp, thank you for your passion in this. And you're right, the continuum of care is a continuum. It's changing. I will say that before this council was seated, 3 of us were up here and we were the ones that appropriated millions of dollars to help fund supporting our homelessness. And it's a continuum. What was working may not be working now. And so what was working a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago isn't working now. And so you're right, it is a continuum of care. And so there is an ebb and flow of what needs to change. And I look forward to having further conversations with our council and our staff to see how much and how we can better assist in providing support. But there is really so much that we can do as a body and as a city. And that is where our nonprofits, free markets come in and say, here's how we can help find a solution with you. It is in our strategic plan that it is a goal of ours to partner with organizations and entities that are already existing. And so that is something that this council will continue to look at, is how we can provide partnerships.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to, just because I've heard a couple different things, and some of what I was going to say, Councilor Emmons just shared, but I think even further back than when Councilor Seymour and Councilor Emmons joined council, and we had the biggest shift in my lifetime, which was a pandemic, which really changed a lot of things, including the amount of homeless, how we were allowed to deal with homeless. It was kind of a game changer. And I think that's important to bring up because we have been dealing with a ever-changing situation when it comes to homelessness. I remember first 2 years I was on council, the homeless problem wasn't what it is today in Westminster, but it was in surrounding communities. And I think that the idea in Jefferson County came out of city manager meetings that they would meet with each other as well as electeds and talked about what can we do for this region in order to house the homeless. And so this facility that hopefully gets done is actually something that's been being talked about for quite a while. And part of the challenge that it was trying to accommodate is that different municipalities are addressing homelessness differently. Denver probably being the one that kind of kicked it off, where they were chasing folks out of Denver and they were ending up in the suburbs. And really the goal, from what I heard from electeds and what I believed, as well as other city managers, both our own and surrounding areas, was we didn't want to play ping pong with the homeless folks. And what this facility, why I really like it, is it takes our $1 million and multiplies it in a way that there's a facility that has wraparound services that gets people out of the cycle. Is it perfect? Is it going to happen? I sure hope so. But it is an ever-changing thing. And I think that it's just important that folks understand that. And if you look at what 2 councils ago, the council in between now and right now, the thing that has been consistent between all the folks that I have served with is we have put resources when we've been asked by staff as they've been trying to figure out what the best way to accommodate the situation is in a way where we are treating people with dignity, but we are also upholding the law and keeping safety for our residents, both homeless and the ones that are homed in the city. So, not to beat a dead horse, but I think it's really important that folks really understand, even the things I've seen in 5 years, and I'm sure that there was some of that before, but really in the last 5 years, the homeless situation in Colorado as a whole has really changed. And it certainly has in the city of Westminster. And I think it was very exacerbated by the pandemic. So I appreciate the passion that Mr. Farr brings. And I've went out and toured some camps with him and met some, very unique individuals who are just trying to get by that were very nice folks. So I understand your passion and I hope that we had a silver bullet that could solve it. But I hope that you keep working with us as we try to figure out the best solution as we deal with the changing landscape.
You all covered anything I would have said, so we'll move on. And do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 8A through C?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt consent agenda items 8A through 8C.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve items 8A through C of the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nurmela.
Yes.
And Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
Thank you. It is 8:33 and I will open the public hearing regarding Family and Medical Leave Insurance Act. And if there's anyone in the crowd that would like to speak, please come on forward. See no one. It is 8:34 and I close the public hearing. And is there a motion to adopt Resolution 38, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 38, opting out of the Family and Medical Leave Insurance Act family.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 38. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please. Oh, sorry.
I have a few questions. Is there anyone here that can answer questions on this?
Good evening. I'm Larry Dora, Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr. First question, does the city plan, it says that it covers most of what family would provide. So I have questions regarding the city plan itself. Does it cover all employees, including part-time and hourly?
First, for the benefit of the audience here tonight and those watching on our coverage here of the meeting streaming on the internet, let me just provide a little context, if I may. And this Family Medical Leave Insurance Act is a voter-approved statewide initiative providing for paid leave that was voted in November of 2020 and now will begin to collect premiums during 2023 and provide paid leave for workers across Colorado beginning in 2024, just for the context of all of those here. And of course, I want to recognize that a number of small businesses do not have paid leave for any of their workers. And this will change a lot of what those businesses have to provide in terms of leave. Now, the city of Westminster has had paid leave for many years as a function of the market for employees in the government sector. As such, all of our neighbors have opted out of the Family Medical Leave Insurance Act. And in fact, I'm only aware of one other city along the Front Range that has chosen not to opt out. Now, with that, to address your question, the city does not provide paid leave for hourly workers.
that are employed by the city of Westminster. However, if the city opts out of the Family Medical Leave Insurance Act, those individuals will be able to prescribe and opt in individually to paid leave with the state of Colorado, who will be administering this program. They will be able to apply for benefits, pay premiums, and do all of those things on an individual choice basis. Whereas if the city does not opt out of this, all of its employees will be forced to pay in the premiums, as will the city as an employer. So opting out gives the flexibility to those individuals to participate in the plan and benefits that will begin in 2024.
Thank you for the background. There are, though, lots of benefits to having to basically say no to this and doing that, because so the questions I have are related to what employees would be missing out on, right? So part-time and hourly is not, so that's not covered by the city plan.
It's not.
Does the city plan make you use PTO first?
Well, paid time off, or we call it that general leave in our employee policies. So that if the city were not to opt out of this, employees could have the choice of using part, some, or all of PTO and this family coverage. This family coverage is limited in terms of the amount of the benefit versus the city's general leave that's available for our employees pays the full amount of their wage if they utilize leave. But again, this is at the option of those employees that don't have this coverage. They could obtain the coverage direct with the state. And I want to say that in terms of lost opportunity, we feel very strongly that since this is not in place at our competitor cities, our neighbors here in Jefferson County and Adams County, that we don't think there's a market drive for us to attract and retain those employees that our city would be missing if we were to not opt out of this act.
For portability, how does that work for the city plan? Meaning, with the state plan, you pay in, and if you quit, go to a new job, you can carry those benefits over. Do we have that portability?
Our employees do have, at separation, either retirement, termination, or resignation, are eligible to receive some of a portion of their unused general leave in cash, therefore providing some measure of affordability for accessing that leave or not accessing all of the paid leave during the time of their employment.
Okay. And for the definition of family, how do we define family? Is it an inclusive definition?
Well, the family, as it's presented in your agenda memo and as it's referred to statewide here in Colorado, is an acronym for the Family Leave Act that this pertains to. But I'd have to dig into the notes as to how, or if there's any reference to family. But this is really related to the worker and then activities that would cause them to be eligible for leave, many of which are family related, but some are related to worker injury or other worker illness, et cetera.
Yeah, for the family portion of the city leave benefit, do we define what family is?
Oh, yes. Our city has, I couldn't quote from them. We could provide that definition if it's useful, but the city's definition of family is well understood, clearly documented for our workforce to the instance that folks are eligible for leave. And a lot of that parallels the Family Medical Leave Act, the United States law that governs FMLA that's been around since the 1990s. So there are some very key parallels to those two in terms of definition of family.
Okay, but do you know if it's an inclusive definition of family?
I believe that it is. I know that we continue to evaluate it. Again, I could provide that definition to the council to the extent that it would be helpful, and I can tell you that it's very market competitive as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Numella?
Since I took advantage of the city paid family leave a couple of times, I do have one. So I am passionate about the fact that we have this type of leave, and actually Westminster, having worked at a few other cities, is pretty good in terms of what they provide. Some cities don't provide any additional leave and are still opting out. The one thing I would say is between for our hourly workers, that would be something that I would like to see us be able to differentiate with being able to provide the same type of leave that our exempt workers are able to get. Obviously you can do the hour the hourly comparison, 32 hours, or a definition of full-time for benefits. Like they should get family leave, the same family leave that exempt workers get. So there's that. The question is, what % of our workforce is hourly?
Well, in terms of the number of people, sometimes our payroll can reach perhaps 1,700 people at a time. Of course, that just depends on our variable hour work shifts and the number of employees we can recruit to fill a certain number of hours, for example, at our swimming pools and during our summer programs and so forth. So it might reach something on the order of 60-40, depending on the time of year, if I were to average it out, something like that in terms of individual people. But keep in mind that the heart of our workforce is our regular full-time 52-week, 40-hour workforce.
Well, so for those folks that are working full-time but hourly, and it would be nice if we could extend that paid family leave to them. Okay, that is all. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Quick history question. So when this passed, if I remember correctly, we lobbied our delegation pretty hard with our lobbyist team to be able to do this because it was more beneficial to be able to opt out. Do I remember that correctly? Because I seem to recall there was a lot of working specifically with our delegation around this being passed.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Forgive me, that predates my employment at the city. I might look to
one of my Chris colleagues around here somewhere
who could describe that. And it could be the case, and I'll be right here.
Can't let him not answer questions. Sorry.
Can you repeat the question for me?
I'm just curious. I seem to recall that we did a lot of work lobbying the delegation and the bill sponsors on this to be able to opt out because it wasn't beneficial to the city compared to what we already have. Am I remembering that correctly?
So that's accurate. And I would also just add, we lobbied to be able to opt out as a home rule municipality to maintain that power regardless of the benefit, right? We want to see that home rule authority respected on whichever item is in front of the legislature. But yes, that was also the other side of it. We believe we have a very beneficial program.
Yep. And since now we're come full circle where this is actually in front of us, I want to take the opportunity to thank you and your team for doing that, because I do recall that, and I recall both those components, both retaining our home rule, but also the fact, it was brought up that, we have a very good, robust program for our employee base. So I wanted to take the time to at least educate people that this was something that we worked on before as a city, but also to thank you and your team.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
No.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
And Councilor Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to item 10B, and the first is to pass Councilor's Bill number 58. Councilor Emmons?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 58 on first reading, appropriating a transfer of $3,302,251 from the Utility Capital Projects Reserve to the 2002 Utility Water Fund for construction of the North Ridge Water Tanks Replacement Capital Project.
Councilor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 58. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
Councilor Baker.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to 10B number 2. Councilor Emmons.
I move to authorize the reallocation of $2,200,000 from Utility Water Fund Sheridan Boulevard Water Main Repair and Replacement Capital Project to the North Ridge Water Tanks Replacement Capital Project.
Counselor Seymour?
Yeah, second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass number 10B, number 2, to authorize the reallocation of the $2,200,000. Roll call, please. Oh, wait, do you have something, Counselor Seymour?
Oh, sorry.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Azadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Counselor Nermella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
and Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10B, number 3. Counselor Emmons?
I move contingent upon approval of the second reading of Councilor's Bill number 58 and City Council approving the transfer of funds to authorize a contract amendment with HDR Engineering Incorporated for engineering services during construction of the North Ridge Water Tanks Replacement Capital Project in the amount of $753,675 and authorize a contingency in the amount of $75,370 for a total of $829,045, increasing the total authorized expenditure with this firm from the previous amount of $1,019,570 to $1,848,615.
Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item 10B, number 3. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Nermella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
and Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10B, number 4. Counselor Emmons?
I move contingent upon approval of the second reading of Councilor's Bill number 58 and City Council approving the transfer of funds to authorize a construction management at-risk contract amendment with PCL Construction Incorporated for construction of the North Ridge Water Tanks Replacement Capital Project in the amount of $14,834,450 and authorize a contingency in the amount of $1,483,445 for a total of $16,317,895, increasing the total authorized expenditure with this firm from the previous amount of $3,186,011 to $19,503,906.
Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass the item 10B, number 4. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Nermella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Azadi,
Yes.
and Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10C. Counselor Emmons?
Thank you, Mayor. I move based on the recommendation of the city manager, find that the public interest would be best served by extending sole source spending authority with Converge One Incorporated for a total authorized amount not to exceed $145,000 in annual expenses for year 2002 and $125,000 for year 2023.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item 10C. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Azadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
and Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10D. Counselor Emmons?
Thank you, Mayor. I authorize the city manager to execute a contract amendment with Integrity Golf Incorporated to complete irrigation installation within the Parkway Islands along Legacy Ridge Parkway and other landscape irrigation components related to the Legacy Ridge Golf Course irrigation project, increasing the authorized expenditure amount by $343,909 with this contractor from the original contract and contingency amount of $5,663,306 to $6,011,215. To $6,011,215.
And I think you said 3 instead of 7. Did she?
For which one?
For the first one, 5,667,000. I think you said 63, just for the record.
What
But
she said.
it's fine. Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve items 10D. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker. Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
And Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10E. Counselor Emmons?
Thank you, Mayor. I move based on the recommendation of the city manager to determine that the public interest will best be served by authorizing a negotiated purchase of products and supplies from the sole source provider Hatch Company in an amount increasing the previously authorized expenditures from $74,500 for 2022 and 2023 to an amount not to exceed $150,000 per year in 2022, 2023, and 2024 to replace water quality analysis instruments and to maintain all Hatch Company instrument networks throughout public works and utilities.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 10E. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
And Counselor Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10F. Counselor Emmons?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize the city manager to approve a 5-year memorandum of understanding with the Westminster Legacy Foundation.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 10F. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Emmons? Oh, Counselor Baker?
Thank you. Yes. Unfortunately, I will be voting against this. And I'll be voting against this because I think it imposes too much of the will of the city council onto the foundation. Like we're sort of making them get a manager. We sort of guide their decisions, and I don't think that's good. So I'll be voting against it.
Counselor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be voting in favor of this because it has an end in mind, and I think that's absolutely critical. The funding source is changed a little bit because everything changed with COVID, and that is just a reality of our lives. But the foundation was set on a track to become independent and self-sufficient, and that timeline, we're going to continue to keep that timeline. And so that is the end in mind and why I'll be voting yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be voting yes. I think that the work that the Legacy Foundation does from the Ridgeway Park to our outdoor playground park is really important to the community. I am glad to see that you're moving towards a structure that takes you outside of our funding and more on your own. But I am supportive of making you successful in that effort.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to item 10G, and the fire guys need their hoses. Counselor Emmons?
And with that, I move based on the recommendation of the city manager to determine that the public interest would be best served by ratifying sole source vendor purchases for fire hose made with front range fire apparatus not to exceed $90,102 in 2022.
Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item 10G. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
And Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item 10H.
Thank you, Mayor. I move based on the recommendation of the city manager, find that the public interest would be best served by ratifying a sole source vendor to print and mail 3 issues of the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Activity Guide from Prairie Mountain Media in the amount not to exceed $83,914.64 for 2022.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item 10H. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Baker?
As I was reading the thing, it's my understanding we just forgot this and bought it, and then we go, oops, we forgot this. Is that what happened?
That's certainly my understanding, but we'll see what staff has to say.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm Rich Newman, the Marketing and Cultural Affairs Administrator for the City of Westminster. And regretfully, yes, that is what happened. We were reorganized and we did lose our admin support, and nobody caught that had expired. We do it on a 3-year basis. It's consistently been with Prairie Mountain Media, and we did go through the proper RFP process. And on October 25th, awarded a new contract for the activity guide, and it is in fact the same vendor, Prairie Mountain.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Counselor Nermella.
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
And Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
There is nothing else on our agenda, but before I adjourn us, I just want to wish anybody that's not going to be here next week with us, happy Thanksgiving, safe travels if you're going out, come back safely. And for those of you coming next week, we'll see you then. Meeting's adjourned.